Hey there, welcome to another episode of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is this brand new item that just arrived in the mail today. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little annoyed with myself because I just sat here on my floor and I did a whole introduction to this video and like kind of a live unboxing of this figure, so I was seeing it with you for the first time. And I probably shot, 5-6 minutes of intro of me revealing this figure to you. And then I realized that I hadn't actually hit the record button on my tablet. So now I suppose I could have just boxed everything back up and faked my way through it a second time, but I won't bother to do that. So I'm recording it again. Now it's not a live unboxing per se. I unboxed this thing about 5 minutes ago, but I'll go through it again with you. Anyway, so what this is a 12-inch Mer-Man figure from the Masters of the Universe line, and it comes from a toy company called Mondo. I had originally ordered this toy, I think it was last summer, and it was supposed to arrive in the fall. I think the original date was supposed to be October. So when I ordered this thing, I knew I was going to love it. I love the character of Mer-Man. It was pretty much guaranteed to be my toy of the year for 2019. So I ordered it from Big Bad Toy Store, and I waited. But then they pushed it back, and it wasn't shipping till November. And then it wasn't shipping till December. And I was really getting concerned. I was like, well, I hope I get this before the end of the year. Everything takes a little longer to get to me here in Canada than it does to people in the States. And I like to have my year-end video done, by the end of the calendar year. So if this figure shipped out in mid-December, I probably wouldn't have got it till mid-January, and I didn't want to hold off. So I was like, man, I hope I get it by the end of the year. And I didn't. And then it said estimated arrival date first quarter 2020, then second quarter 2020. And it felt like I was just waiting for this figure forever. And what was most annoying about that was that the company that makes this figure, Mondo, had it available to purchase on their website all along. And I could have just ordered it from Mondo at any time, but I've never ordered from them before. Big Bad Toy Store is where I order all my online stuff, so I've got to, there's a trust there. They also allow you to build up your purchases into what they call a pile of loot, and that way you can save on shipping by bundling things together. So I thought I'd wait till I had Mer-Man with a couple other things. So I kept holding out with Big Bad Toy Store, figuring they'll get it in stock eventually. But then this whole quarantine thing started, and I haven't been able to go out and buy new toys with the frequency that I normally do. And so I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, I want this friggin' Mer-Man figure. I'm just going to cancel with Big Bad. I'm going to order from Mondo. That's what I did. And this thing was supposed to arrive on Tuesday. And I told you in my last video that this thing was coming Tuesday and that I was going to review it and post it for you then. It came a little later than expected. So it's Wednesday. It finally came. I just went and picked it up at the post office. And like I said, I was excited to do a whole unboxing with you, but I screwed that up. Anyway, so that was the outside box that it came in. This is, it said right on there, Mer-Man. So nothing too exciting there. Then I pulled out this box here, and at first it was all cloudy because it was covered in a plastic bag. So I got to pull that off and reveal the box to you. And this outside box is really cool. And I wasn't expecting this. I hadn't seen this online or anything yet. But you see here, it's got Snake Mountain, which is the headquarters for Skeletor and his evil warriors. So all four sides are decorated with the Snake Mountain deco, including the lava waterfall there. So that's a really cool box. I like that a lot. And then you slide the slip sleeve off, and you reveal this box here. So there's a nice painted picture of Mer-Man. And then on the side, or the other side, you get another picture. It's the same picture of Mer-Man, but just kind of in this black and green. And yeah, it just looks really cool. Really nice box. Pop that open, and then you see it's got this nice kind of like green kind of blasting background. Anyway, so inside of that, was the Merman, and he was all encased in plastic like this. And to my surprise, actually, I figured he would be all wrapped up in twist ties and stuff, and I probably would have had to pause the video and take 10 minutes to undo all the twist ties. I held this thing up like this, and right away Merman just came crashing out on the floor. So I'm very lucky he didn't break immediately. But yeah, so here's his accessories. So he comes with his trident, his sword, which are his classic accessories. He also comes with a pistol up here and 2 alternate feet. I'm not really sure what the difference is between the feet yet. I'll have to look at those in a little more detail later. And he also comes with a display base. So here's the base of it here. And then you get this second part here, which would stand up and go between his legs so he can kind of lean on that. So that's pretty cool. And then the main figure was encased here. And here's some other accessories. So he's actually got 8 additional hands. So all kinds of additional hands. We'll take a better look at these in a minute. But that's cool that you get so many options. And he's also got an alternate head. And if you know who Mer-Man is, this is the head you would recognize, because this is the head that was on the vintage figure. And so yeah, it's really cool that we got that. But I really like the head that came on the figure. So without further ado, here he is. This is Mondo 12-inch Merman. And this guy is awesome. Like, I haven't touched him at all yet. I haven't posed him or anything like that. Because as soon as I kind of went through all this scenario, that's when I realized I hadn't recorded anything yet. So now I'm caught up to where I'm supposed to be. So now that I've got him open, I've got him in hand, I want to take a closer look at him, but I'm going to get a little more comfortable. I'm going to get off the floor here and get back into my more my usual setting. So thank you for joining me for the sort of unboxing. And yeah, we'll take a closer look at him in a second. So here is the Mondo Merman in all of his glory outside of the packaging. But before I really delve into looking at this figure in detail, I want to talk a little bit about the history of the character of Mer-Man and a little bit about my history with the character. So the original Masters of the Universe toy line came out in 1982, and I would have been 4 years old at that point in time. And I can't say I remember, the first time I saw the cartoon or anything super specific, but I remember the first time I saw this character of Mer-Man, like, I don't know if it was a commercial for the toys or maybe it was a catalog advertising like for Sears or something, but I loved this character from the first time I saw him. I just have a thing for like sea creatures, and not in a weird way like that chick from The Shape of Water. I just love mer creatures. Like Walrus Man was my favorite Star Wars figure when I was a kid. I loved the creature from the Black Lagoon, and I loved Mer-Man. There's the original 1982 Mer-Man. He's probably about 5 inches tall or so. And you can see some of the similarities. I should probably get a close-up shot of him. So you can see, green skin, that kind of weird, almost cat-like face. He had the yellow armor. It's missing a piece here that kind of, you'll see it there. It's kind of like this butterfly-shaped piece. I still have it somewhere. It's just kind of detached from there. And he had like kind of this corn cob-looking sword, which I think I still have somewhere as well, but it's tucked away. But yeah, so this is how the original figure looked. And it didn't really match up with what he looked like on the packaging. He was much more fish-like on the packaging, and even in the cartoon, he was much fishier looking. But here he is, kind of got this weird cat-like appearance. But anyway, I still love this figure. Anyway, so there's the original Mer-Man figure. Love that thing. Had it since I was a child. But the Masters of the Universe line kind of fizzled out after a couple of years. It was pretty much dead by 86, 87. I wasn't collecting it anymore. I had moved on to other things. G.I. Joes and Transformers and stuff were more my focus. But I still always loved the character. And then in 2002, the Masters of the Universe toy line and cartoon was relaunched with this new kind of anime-inspired feel. The cartoon series was really great, and the toys were awesome. They were designed by the sculptors known as the Four Horsemen, who previously worked for McFarlane Toys. And they created these really fun and dynamic and modern sculpts for these characters. So let me show you the Merman from that collection. So here you see what is commonly referred to as the 2000X Merman. They were calling them the 2002 figures for a while, but the line lasted for a couple of years into about 2004 at least. So now they're just kind of called 2000X to cover all that period of time. But you see here, he's similar, but he's got that much more fishy style face. This is much more accurate to what the vintage card art looked like, and a lot less cat-like in this figure here. And he's still got similar armor. It does just kind of float around on here, kind of odd. When I first bought it, there was an elastic that held it in place, but that kind of rotted away. So yeah, I don't like the way it just kind of floats around, but they've changed up the color. It's more of a golden color instead of the bright yellow of the original. He still has a sword that's very similar to what the original figure had. Again, it's in that gold color rather than yellow, but still got that. It looks a lot less like corn now. It looks more like, kind of bony, spiky. I don't know. I think it might actually supposed to be kind of the sword of a swordfish. I'm really not sure, but it looks a lot cooler in this version. And he's got his trident as well. It could use some paint apps, but you can see there's some nice detail in there with this kind of gem in there. And it looks pretty bony and stuff too. It's a pretty cool design. Anyway, I really like this Merman figure. He's just got a lot more detail. He's a lot more dynamic. Oh yeah, I forget he's got a little action feature there. If you poke the button on his back, his little sword swings up. So anyway, yeah, I thought this Merman figure was great, and I still love it. Now, the 2000X line was relatively short-lived, unfortunately, but Masters of the Universe bounced back relatively quickly in a collector-focused line called Masters of the Universe Classics, and the Four Horsemen continued to do the sculpts for these figures, but instead of kind of making them a little bit more modern and dynamic like they tried in the 2000X line, they kind of went back to the vintage figures, which is why they're called classics. So this here is the Classics Merman, which came out in 2009, I believe. So you see here, he's very inspired by that vintage figure. He basically has the same head. It's got that kind of cat-like head with the kind of cat ears, but the armor is just much more detailed. Again, he's got basically that same trident, except now it's got a little more coloring, so the gem is actually colored in there. His armor, you can store his like little corncob sword right there on the back of his armor, which is really cool. But yeah, just a really cool design. Whoops, and I just popped his head off. But that's the next thing I was going to mention. He actually came with an alternate head, which was my favorite part about this figure. Because even though I have a fondness for the classic vintage head, I always wanted it to look fishier. So it's cool that they gave us this head as kind of a throwback to the classics line, but they also gave us a head which was much fishier, more like the 2000X head. And I actually had this figure displayed with that head for quite some time. But then they released a variant figure and in a different color scheme, and I decided to display the variant with the fish head, and I would keep this green and yellow one with the kind of cat head just to have some difference on the shelf. So let me put this guy down and I'll grab the other guy. So here you see that same Masters of the Universe Classics figure, except now he's in this kind of baby blue color. And so the figure is the exact same. I think he came with all the exact same accessories, the sword and the trident. I've just have them displayed a little differently. So I've got green Merman holding the trident, but I've got blue Merman holding his sword. And this is the same head we got with that figure, except it's in blue instead of green. And so this is the head I chose to display with him. So he's got that more fishy-like with the fins on the top rather than the cat ears. And I prefer this head, even though it's still kind of, it's a little googly-eyed and looks a little goofy. I still prefer it. And yeah, otherwise, other than the paint scheme, this was the exact same figure as the 2009 figure. This one came out maybe a year or two later in 2010 or 2011 or so. But I really like this variant color scheme just because it's something different. And the next Merman in my collection is this teeny little guy here. This is from a little line of Masters of the Universe minis. They sold these guys in 2 packs, and each of them came with a little piece of Castle Grayskull that you could build. And so yeah, this guy's a lot of fun. Again, he's got the kind of fishy look. He's got his sword and his trident. Both these accessories can come out of their hands there. And yeah, he's just a lot of fun. He's very stylized with these very teeny little legs and this big bulky body. But yeah, so he's a cute little figure. And the next Merman I got in my collection is from Super 7. And Super 7 took over the Masters of the Universe license from Mattel. So they continued on with the Masters of the Universe classics, but they also decided to do a couple other things with the line. So one of the things they did is some reaction figures, which is these little 5 points of articulation figures done in the style of like old Kenner Star Wars figures. So there you see I've got the Merman. And I decided to keep him in his package partly because it came with such nice packaging. Like I really like that card art. And if I opened this little guy up, he'd probably just get lost in the shelves there and you couldn't really appreciate him. But when I pin him up to the wall like this with this really nice packaging, you know, he really stands out. And I think it puts a little more of a showcase on the figure. So I'm going to keep him like that. But yeah, so this is from the first wave when there were only 4, but they've done a number of these figures since. So yeah, I really like this guy. And the next Merman in my collection is this Funko Pop. And so, yeah, what more can you really say about Funko Pops? They're adorable. I love these things. I have a lot of them. And I think the Masters of the Universe line is probably the first collection where I tried to become a completist. Usually with the Funkos, I'll try to buy 1 or 2 of something. Like if I really like, say, Star Wars, I'll try to buy maybe my favorite Star Wars character. And if I like Marvel, maybe I'll just buy Spider-Man, that type of thing. With Masters of the Universe, if I were to buy just my favorite, I only would have bought Mer-Man. But I like these Masters of the Universe Funko Pops so much that I actually bought all of them. So Mer-Man is my favorite. I think this guy looks great. I like him a lot. My only issue with him is he doesn't stand up very well. Hopefully he'll stand up for me here for a second while I set him down. And the last Mer-Man that I have in my collection was also produced by Super 7. And this is another figure from the Classics line in the 6-inch scale. But this is a Mer-Man that they did based on the animated look. So this is directly out of the 80s Filmation cartoon. And it is quite unique when compared to the other Classics figures. And I really like it a lot. This was a figure that I didn't know I needed until they released it. Because, yeah, the Filmation look, it's quite a bit different than even the kind of fishier versions like you see here. It's just unique on its own. And it's really cool. So he's got, again, similar armor, but it's much more simplified to match the look of the cartoon. He's got this weapon here. This looks a lot more like what the vintage 82 figure came with. So you can see how a lot of people thought it looked more like corn on the cob or something rather than, shark teeth or whatever it's supposed to be, because it doesn't look very menacing here. And yeah, just a really great figure. I love all of these Merman toys. So here is my Merman collection. I do not have every Merman figure ever released. There are still a couple that I don't have, such as some paint color variants. They did the Funko Pop, also in blue. But I've got a good chunk of all the Merman figures that they've ever released. And I forgot to mention it when I was showing him earlier, but the 2009 Classics figure here, that was the figure that topped my list of 10 best figures in my collection. And that's because it's like the figure I got from 82 that I loved so much, except he's improved. I like the fact that he has the swappable heads. He's bigger. He's got more accessories. He's just, he's everything I loved about the original one, but just kind of ramped up. And so when I tried to think of which toy in my collection kind of makes me the happiest, it gives me those nostalgic feels. It makes me want to take him on a car ride and play with him on the beach or whatever. I love that Merman figure. I think he's great. And now I've got this big Mondo Merman to talk about. And I'll tell you right off the bat, even though it's pretty much guaranteed to be my toy of the year, and looking at them all together, he's absolutely stunning. I don't think he would knock the Classics Merman off of the top of my list if I were to still make a best toys in my collection list. And the reason for that is At 12 inches, he's a really nice collectible. He's going to look really nice in a glass display case, but he feels more like an adult collectible and not like a toy. I like collecting figures because I like them to be something you can pick up and play with. Otherwise I would collect statues or something. And that big Mondo Merman is not something that I would just stick in my pocket and, take out into the sandbox or something. I'd be worried he'd break or he'd get dirty or something. So as fantastic as he is as a collectible, he doesn't dethrone the best toy in my collection, which is that 2009 Mer-Man. Anyway, let's clear all these other guys out of here, and now let's really delve into Mondo Merman. Okay, so I've cleared all those other figures out of here, so now we can actually take a look at Mondo Merman. So let's start with taking a look at his accessories. So first off, the alternate head. So this head looks like pretty much an exact reproduction of the head that we get on the original 82 figure, as well as on the Classics figure. And I'm glad that they gave it to us. Like, it's a cool nod to the original character, but I don't think it really matches up with this body. Like, this body is just too detailed for this head. I don't see myself ever displaying this figure with this head. So it's cool that we have it as an option, but yeah, I don't think I'll be using it. Now, I will just mention, if you bought this figure from Mondo, I don't know how many they made, but for, like, say, the first few people that ordered this, and it might have been, I don't know, the first 100 or the first 500, I don't know. But if you ordered it directly from Mondo, you actually got a third, like, bonus head. And that wasn't an option to me because I ordered this through Big Bad Toy Store all those months ago. And by the time I finally canceled the Big Bad Toy Store order and ordered from Mondo, the promotion for the third bonus head was over. So here's an image of the bonus head. And it's a unique look. Like, I think they just came up with it on their own. It's not based on any pre-existing fiction, comic book appearances, cartoons, anything like that. And it is a cool fish man, like fish monster type of head. And I'm a little annoyed that I didn't get that piece because, I wanted this figure from way back when. I should have probably just ordered it from Mondo directly in the first place, and I would have got that head, and it wouldn't have cost me any additional money. But like the original head there, I'm very unlikely to display this figure with that third head. So even if I had got it, chances are it would just end up in a bag somewhere, and then I'd put it in a bin, and I'd never really see it again. So it's kind of a bummer that some people got this third head and paid the same price as me. But yeah, I'm not going to sweat it too much. I just wanted to pop in here with a quick correction. While I was editing my video, I realized I kind of misremembered something regarding that extra head. I had bought it from Big Bad Toy Store, and there was no option to get the extra head. And then when I went to Mondo's website, and that's when I discovered that if you bought it directly from Mondo, they had two options. One, the standard price, the same, which was his Big Bad Toy Store, or they had a deluxe version that had the extra head as well as an extra spear. So yeah, I was annoyed that I didn't have that option on Big Bad Toy Store. But anyway, when I did eventually cancel my order with Big Bad and I ordered it from Mondo, I could have ordered the deluxe version. It's only a couple of bucks more, but I think I decided at the time, you know what, I'm not going to display him with the alternate head or with the extra spear. I prefer the golden trident, so I chose not to pay the couple extra bucks to get those extra pieces. So disregard what I just said earlier. So let's take a look at the other accessories we've got. So there's the set of bonus feet. So these are kind of strange, and at first glance I wasn't too sure what the difference was, but the way they're angled, so you see you would plug them in there and they're pointing downwards. So I think what you could do with these is, like, if you wanted to display him in a swimming pose, I don't think the base he comes with is strong enough to support him if I were to lift his legs up like he were floating or hovering there. I haven't tried it yet, but if so, then yeah, you could display him with these feet here, so it would kind of look like he's just kind of floating there in motion. So I guess that's what those are for. So that's cool that they gave us that option. But again, it's something I'm not likely to use. So yeah, I will set those aside. And now for the hands. So there's 8 extra set of hands. So the hands he came packaged with are just closed fists. So here we have kind of a grabbing hand. And so you've got that for each side. Then we've got some kind of closed, almost closed fisted. These are probably the ones that are going to be used for gripping his sword and his trident, maybe. Then we've got these two, which, I don't know, these look like more like scratching, like they'd rake you kind of hands. Doesn't look like they'd be used for holding anything, but it's just kind of a good open palmed hand. And then we've got, again, another kind of semi-closed hand. So there's 3 sets, I'd say, that are all pretty similar, these sort of semi-closed hands, but I'm sure they're all sculpted for different reasons. So like these ones probably fit his sword, the other ones probably fit his staff, the other one probably fits his gun. And it's nice that they give you the option on each side. So if you want him to hold his gun in his left hand and his trident in his right, or vice versa, you have that option with all these different hands. So let's look at those accessories. First up, the sword. So yeah, this is really cool. There's a lot of nice detail in this. And this really does give the look of teeth. I don't know if this quite looks like it would be a swordfish, like a beak, or if it's something he fashioned together with, maybe it's supposed to be a bunch of shark teeth kind of stuck on the side there. Whatever it is, it's pretty cool. It's got this tooth on the bottom there as well. So yeah, I like that quite a bit. Then his trident. So lots of nice detail on the trident there as well. So you've got that colored blue stone there. It's multiple different colors and different textures. It kind of looks like maybe a crab shell at the top. And then, I don't know, some sort of like conch shell there. And then maybe driftwood wrapped in seaweed for the staff. Another kind of spiral shell at the bottom there. It's just really cool. Really well done. I like that a lot. And the last accessory is the gun. So there's not a whole lot to see there. Like, it's pretty basic, but it's pretty nice. I don't remember him using a gun, but I think the Filmation figure also came with a little pistol. So I'm sure it's established somewhere that he uses a gun. So it's cool to have that as an option. So the last accessory we have to talk about is the display base. So this came in 2 parts. So it's just the plain bottom there, and then you snapped this piece into place. Now it's got this kind of the black metal part there that's you can pull that out quite a bit, and that would give you a little extra height to display him. But I think the best way for this to work is it pretty much just comes up to his crotch level, so pretty much around there. And what's kind of weird is that the base is just plain black, but on the bottom there's this sculpted M, which looks kind of nice, but there's nowhere to plug this part onto this side anywhere, so you can't have this side facing up. So yeah, that seems like kind of a shame that they sculpted that, and it's kind of gone to waste just facing the bottom there. But oh well. Okay, now let's take a look at this figure. So you'll see here I switched out some of Mer-Man's hands. So I took the fists out and I gave him 2 of the semi-closed hands here. So he's holding his sword in this one and holding the trident in that. So the hands were pretty easy to swap out. It remains to be seen how well they're in there. Hopefully the hands don't fall out. But they seemed relatively snug when I plugged them in there. But one thing that was a little scary was fitting the weapons into his hand, because you see they're pretty thick. Like, I couldn't really slide this down from the top because of this kind of bony protrusion at the end. So really the only way to get it in there is to kind of open his thumb. You always have to kind of tug and stretch on the plastic. And I was a little worried that, you could break something there. Same as with this. Like, it's so many different widths throughout that you couldn't just slide it in from the top. You really had to kind of wrestle it in through his fingers there. So yeah, I managed though, and I didn't break anything, so that's good. So let's look at some of the details up close. Let's start with his feet. So on his like shin armor there, you see there's multiple different types of textures and different seashells. These big fins on the back. So they're kind of in that classic merman yellow, but they get a nice wash over them in various colors. So this orange, kind of brown, brings out some of the details. You've got some of this green on here, some white for like what the bonier parts, and on the shells, it looks really good. And the feet, there's not a whole lot to say about the feet, but they look good. They've got a little bit of webbing between the toes there. The toenails a different shade of green. Now as for his like say loincloth here, again it's just a fin. The shorts, they almost look like they could be like a chainmail material. There's some nice detail here in the belt where it looks like it's been tied together. So with these almost look like they could be string, but they are actually just soft kind of rubber pieces attached to the belt. And they each have little shells, I guess, and various little things hanging off of the bottom of them. So that's a new detail. I don't think we've seen that on any previous version of Merman. And then the chest armor here. Again, a lot of nice textures and a lot of paint work. I like how it's kind of uneven, not symmetrical side to side. It's got these like almost little barnacles on it, and they just seem a little random. These bones around here look really cool, the shark teeth, and especially around the back here too. You see this comes right around over the back of his head. Looks really cool. Now the back, I'm not sure how I feel about the back. Like it looks like some sort of aquatic growth, like a coral reef or something, but it is kind of just a big chunk of yellow plastic. It does have some sculpting and some of those barnacles and stuff in it too, but yeah, it's just maybe a little much. So not a big deal though. It looks good from the front. Kind of on his forearms here, he's got similar armor to what we saw on his shins with the fins, the different textures, little barnacles and everything. Looks really cool. As for the head, so let me angle this better so I can get a better shot of the head. Okay, so the head sculpt here is my favorite piece about this figure. This head sculpt, like the third bonus piece that I missed out on, it's like a unique design that I guess Mondo would have come up with on its own, not based on any prior established look. Like it's similar to, definitely inspired by what we saw in, say, the old mini comics and the old artwork. But it's unique in that for the first time, he actually looks menacing. Because even the classics figure that I love, he's got kind of googly eyes and he doesn't look very scary. This guy actually does look like he could be an ocean warlord. It's those eyes. It's such a great paint job on the eyes there. I don't know if it's really picking it up on camera, but they've got this kind of glassy look to them, and they're really cool. The mouth is articulated, so he can open his mouth quite a bit, and it's got that very kind of fish-like, texture inside of his mouth there. But I like that a lot. It's cool to give him that articulation so that he can, kind of talk a little bit, I guess. And it gives you a lot of display options there. The fins on the top I really like. I really like this kind of little design here. The antennas between his eyes. On the back here, just the ridges that run along there and kind of match up with his gilly neck. It's really cool. And I will say, so Mondo has done these figures. They've done, I think, 4 or 5 figures prior to getting to Merman here. And I've seen people get pretty excited about the He-Man and the Skeletor and the Faker that they've done, and Man-at-Arms is coming out soon. And I'll be honest, when I saw that He-Man and the Skeletor, I was not interested in these at all. Like, I'm not trying to knock the figures, but they just don't look like the He-Man and the Skeletor I grew up with. It seemed like Mondo was trying to go with its own unique, grittier, more realistic style. and it just wasn't working for me. I didn't care for their redesigns. And yet they totally blew me away when they revealed their Merman. You know, I guess it's the same aesthetic. It's something new. It's not based on what I grew up with. You know, it's maybe a little grittier, a little more grown up looking. But even though that look, that style didn't appeal to me when it came to He-Man and Skeletor, I think they nailed it with Merman. This is the best Merman has ever looked. I absolutely love this design. It's just killer. And yeah. Now, what else can I say about this figure? It's really hard, this setup. It's such a large figure for me to get it all on screen here. I'm really reaching out to kind of move it around. So it's kind of hard for me to show you the articulation. But just from the little bit of time I've spent fooling around with it here, I do feel the articulation is a little loose in places. Like the knees here feel a little loose and the ankles are kind of wobbling around a little bit. I'm glad he has the display base because I'm worried he would topple over because I feel him leaning forward on his ankles when I set him up. It's not too bad. Like right now he's standing on his own, but I could definitely see it happening depending on what kind of poses you wanted to put him in. And because he's so new to me, I'm a little scared to move him around too much. You can see there he's got ball jointed shoulders. He's got the single joints in the elbow. Kind of a unique looking knee joint there. So it's a double jointed knee, but rather than seeing the two pegs on the outside like you normally see on Marvel Legends or something, they're kind of hidden away. So that's kind of neat. I like that. The head, you've noticed, it's got pretty good articulation. You can look up and around in lots of different directions. He's articulated at the waist, so you can turn a bit there. The legs, I'm not sure how much. He's got a pretty good movement there, so he can pretty wide stance. Yeah, from the promotional image that Mondo has on their website, it looks like you can get this guy in quite a few cool poses. I'm not brave enough to bend him around that much just yet, but I'll throw some of those images up here so you can kind of see what Mondo shows off that they can do with this guy. But yeah, I think this is a really cool figure. Definitely one of the new highlights of my collection. I like it a lot. And yeah, after having him in hand and playing with him, he is going to be very tough to dethrone for my figure of the year. Okay, so that is my review of Mondo's 12-inch Merman. Really cool figure, really pleased with it. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel, and please leave me any comments or questions below and I'll be happy to answer them. So yeah, until next time, thanks for watching.